Back once again for the renegade master. 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 Back once again for the renegade master.
Hello my renegades and welcome back to the channel. Okay, we are back into Love is Blind series 2. We are now on episode 2. But before we get into it, as I always ask, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button so when you know I'm on and doing videos, please comment, like, share and do the good things that you do, because I continue to be on the road to 1k. Anyway, what can I say about this episode? We are lifting off where we left off, with Billy going to have that chat to Ashley in regards to his reservations about her being cabin crew and whether they could make this work or not. So he does talk to her in regards to telling her that, like, you know, he has his reservations around her job because he's dated cabin crew before, and basically what's happened is he's tried to make it work. The pattern of their shifts did not align with what it is that he wanted out of everything, and in the end it ended up fizzling out. You could tell Ashley was absolutely crestfallen by hearing this, but Ashley was not going to go down without a fight. Let me just tell you this, yeah. Ashley was selling herself to this man like a good one. I ain't gonna lie. She was literally painting out exactly what they could have together at the end of the day. And she believes that her and Billy could work in the future, basically. Because Billy's there saying he wants a teammate. So Ashley literally gave him what he wanted. So basically she said that she doesn't necessarily have to be in the air all the time. She can do ground jobs, which is essentially like a 9 to 5. And she could actually work that into the picture. So I'm just like, I understand Billy's reservations, yeah, but and I'm glad he let Ashley know what his reservations are, but it's a case of Ashley now has to compromise her whole lifestyle potentially for him. She has to make this gigantic change in a lifestyle that she absolutely loves. She loves being cabin crew, to be honest with you, but she knows if she wants to keep Billy, or if she wanted to fight for him at that point and to keep him interested and choose her, she would have to say something as, I can do groundwork, basically. I can change my job role. I can do a 9 to 5. So I could be there for family, because at the end of the day, it's something she's going to have to think about in the future. If they do get to the point of being married, wanting children, this, that and the other, things would have to change at that essence. But it's kind of like Billy wants the assurance and the reassurance that she's going to change that now. They don't even know how the hell they're going to fare at the end of all of this, but already she's on the point of saying, I literally want you, so this is what I'm going to do to change my whole lifestyle for you. To me, it just came off as though Ashley was the one doing the digging to make Billy see what they had, basically. Whereas Billy, if she didn't do that digging, I think was willing to let that relationship with her fall to the wayside, because he'd already had his own perceptions of what it's like dating cabin crew. He didn't know whether it would be completely different dating someone like Ashley, who happens to be part of the cabin crew at the end of the day. Because my thing is you're sitting there saying you've fallen for this girl, or you love this girl, or you have this whole connection with her, but you're willing to literally dash it away because of how he perceives a relationship with a cabin crew person is. Just because it didn't work out with the rest doesn't mean it may not have worked out with Ashley. Do you know what I mean? So Billy is now all on the up and up because Ashley said what she said and basically told her that she is the strongest connection for him in there. I think she was his only strong connection in there, to be honest with you. And now you see how the date kind of comes around and starts being more light-hearted, and this is more, I would say, in my estimations, due to Ashley folding to what it is that Billy wanted at the end of the day. They are very much connecting with each other. And Billy was basically saying that now they are very much aligned. But as again, we shall see. We shall see if she's ready to make that full commitment in terms of marrying this guy. Because we always see people do this shit gung-ho straight from the bat, yeah, straight out, with the really strong connections, the really strong feelings, and it all fall to the wayside once it gets a bit further on. So Ashley basically is speaking to the cameras after she's had this date with Billy, and she's saying, my job is not with for everybody, but with him, as in Billy, it's going to be okay. And I was kind of like, mate, did you not hear a word coming out of that man's mouth, and did you not hear what you said in return? It's not going to be okay. Billy doesn't necessarily want you to be cabin crew if you end up getting to the marrying stage at the end of the day. So Ashley is saying that she's falling for Billy. Rightfully so, that's what she wants, and again she's gone fight for that man, which is what she did. So you see it turn to Cal and Sarova. Cal's talking about Sarova in the men's lounge, and the discussion comes up about her being Indian and him being Pakistani. He really likes Sarova, he really does. But what he doesn't want is the differences between them messing them up. So Sarova and Cal do have a date. So he does ask her, like, would it be an issue with her being Indian and him being half Pakistani in them dating or eventually getting married to each other for her family? So this is where Sarova is able to have that conversation with Cal, and Cal is actually sitting back and listening to the experiences of Sarova at the end of the day, because she was of a view where she essentially wanted to make her family proud. And so she was doing everything that she felt that a good little Indian girl should do in her view to make her family proud. So Cal did say to her, so did you only just date Indian guys then? And she did say yes. So she did speak on from that though, and she did have that conversation with, she said, with her parents and with her grandparents, and they saw how unhappy she was and said, no, you need to live your life for yourself. So it's all about now Sarova going for what it is that she wants. So I'm kind of glad that Cal and Sarova had the discussion, because it was the opportunity for Cal to get to know a little bit more about Sarova at the end of the day, because I don't think on the dates that I've seen, gave her that permission in which to speak about herself that much more. So Cal basically says that he's attracted to Sarova, and we could tell that he is. Sarova does stutter when she's trying to give her answer back and tells him that the feeling is mutual. I don't know if the feeling is fully mutual on Sarova's side, to be honest with you, because even when he's letting out his emotions to her in terms of saying that he's attracted to her and he really does like her and he has that connection with her, Sarova kind of, in my opinion, from what I'm looking at, does hold her emotions back a little bit, and she will say the right things, but her presentation or her facial expressions are giving off something else completely. So then we end up meeting Javan, who is 28, and basically he said he's not really had a serious relationship. So I'm kind of like, when people have said they've never really had a serious relationship, especially leading on to what it is they want now, how do they know that they're ready for marriage? So he basically talks about how he's a competitive person naturally, but does not need to compete for women. I'm like, well, mate, what are you doing in Love is Blind then? Because this is essentially you competing to be the best so that you can find that connection over the other men. So basically, if you end up in a triangle, you are competing and vying for that woman. So you're essentially in the wrong type of program if you really think that you don't need to compete for a woman. Because you do in this process, you really, really do. So Javin and Katisha have a date. So Takesha talks about herself. She is a nanny and she's a bridal makeup artist. And Javan is a fitness coach, and they talk about like how he got into that and stuff like that. Overall, they do have a good date. I ain't gonna lie. And Javan is asking a lot of questions in regards to like wanting to know how she was in terms of dating experience, also wanting to know whether she had any brothers or sister, and she was talking about that she's the oldest of 7 and he's the youngest of 5. You do see them two connect. And you can tell that they do like each other, but I don't know how much they actually like each other. I think Katisha likes Javin more than what he's showing Katisha in that sense. But overall, they do have a good date. She talks about how she's had mishaps in the past and wasn't treated well, but she'd ended up staying with a man that was cheating on her consistently, but she kept on forgiving him and remaining in that relationship. And I'm kind of like, well, this kind of shows Katisha's threshold for, in terms of letting people walk all over her, or what she would do in certain situations, because will she continue with the same behavior? Because you got to question, how is she able to pick a good man out of the bunch and ensure she doesn't fall back into patterns of acceptance of bad behavior at the end of the day? So you see Damola is a lovely young man, lovely young black man. So is Javin, is a young black man. But I'm gonna have to say, out of the both of them, I like Damola. So Damola and Katisha do have a date. And basically, Damola is saying that he is not looking to settle for anybody. He's literally out here wanting to find his soulmate. So Damola talks about his heritage in being Nigerian, and that he speaks Yoruba. And Katisha likes him. She likes Damola, and they do have a really good date. They connect on a different level than Katisha and Javin do. So I'm like, this is going to be a triangle right here. Like, honestly, I think her date with Damola was a lot better than Javin. I think Damola has more of a spark with her, and she with him as well. So then it goes back to the men's quarters, and you see like Javin and Damola are talking. And Damola ended up having to say her name to Javin as who piques his interest was Katisha. Javin was clever though. Javin was very clever once he knew that. He didn't tell Damola who he was talking to. He really didn't, because Javin already knew the name of the game at the end of the day. As another man in there, Jack, had said, you have to have a bit of a strategy, as like this is how triangles are formed. And Javin turned around with this greasy ass smirk on his face, I ain't gonna lie, and turned around and said it's all part of the game. And Damola looked at him as if to say, like, what are you going on with right now? And I'm like, my guy, Javin is looking to be Mr. Loverboy. Javin is looking to be Mr. Steal Your Girl while he's chatting in your face, while he's probably going to end up supporting you if you want to talk about Katisha, because you don't seem to realise this man is dating the same woman. This is why I say, if you're going to talk about the people that you're dating, don't say their names. Quit saying their names, because this is the situation that spirals, because that's when it does become really hella competitive. And I think sometimes the most competitive people will start to do some underhanded, greasy ass shit just to win out. Let me put it that way. So Billy is talking about how he still wants Ashley, which we already know. He says he has a good feeling moving forward. So Ashley and Billy do have a date. So she ends up having this stuff in the room, like cowboy type stuff. So she wants to literally, teach him a two-step. Let's just say it was the laziest two-step in all my life. And when they were going from side to side, they were both going in two different directions. It was quite funny to watch. So she does give him a sentimental gift, which is a thimble, and it is a heart thimble because she literally collects thimble on her travels. This man started to cry. This man literally started to cry. I mean, I don't mind a man that is in touch with his emotions, yeah, and can show those emotions. But if you're crying every 5 minutes at the drop of a freaking hat, it's going to start to get on my rotted nerves. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just like, at this point, Billy might as well just ask this girl to marry him, because that's where he's at the end of the day. So Ashley basically asks him, well, if we do get to meet face to face, what's the first things do you think he'll say? And he said he would tell Ashley that he loved her. I'm not gonna lie, when I said I was utterly gobsmacked. I was gobsmacked that he let that shit out. He thought that shit and let it straight out of his mouth. I was like, yeah, it's all well and good, but you don't necessarily know this person. Do you know what I mean? I'm a bit wary, hairy, man. I would not be able to say, the first thing I would say on seeing you, even though I've asked you to marry me, is I love you, because I don't know if I love you that tough then. Do you know what I mean? Because when it comes to love, that's a whole different ball game. Even Ashley was gobsmacked by it at first, and then she ended up saying it back to him, I love you too, Billy. I was like, what? I'm hoping this won't end badly for these two. Like, seriously, I'm hoping it won't end badly, because we've all seen on each of the Love is Blind when people have gone gung-ho this quickly and said I love yous. By the time they get to the end of the living part, even to the marriage part or the meet-up part of families, they've fallen out of love with that person. Seriously fallen out in love with that person, because someone will have to convince me that you can literally fall in love with someone sight unseen. Like, seriously, because I don't know how that is happening. Yes, you can get a feel of someone's personality. Yes, you can get a feel of someone's vibe, someone's spirit, X, Y, and Z, and you can start to form those a little bit of emotional entanglements or connections. But to full blown love, I don't know, you know. I really don't know. You see, Kieran is talking about his situation with Megan and with Sophie. I really think he should go with Megan, to be honest with you. So Megan and Kieran do have a date, and he asks about like Megan's insecurities, if she has any, and she talks about, right, like his relationships for her in terms of what it is that she does within relationships. So they do literally have a really deep conversation, especially about the impacts of having Kieran, about the impacts of having a parents where they divorced quite young, and he didn't have a very good relationship with his mother, and he's only now as an adult building that relationship on, and he wants to be able to, if he was to ever have children, especially with his wife, to be able to have a good relationship with his children, and the mother of his children have a good relationship with their children too, basically. So Megan did go a little bit deeper with him and talked about her circumstances in terms of her having no relationship with her dad, or not even knowing who her dad was, and how that impacted upon her as she was growing up. I must say that these two really do go to the essence and to the crux of who it is that they are. Megan's not afraid to open up with Kieran, and Kieran doesn't seem to be afraid to open up with her either. And this is why I say that he's better off picking Megan, because that's essentially what he wants, to be able to know the person that he's going to try to be with through now and forever, basically. So you see Kieran and Sophie have a date, and he basically says, as I've seen it as well, that the connection that he has with Sophie is surface level, but with Megan it's a little bit deeper. I'm just like, at this moment in time, he's forming a bit of a triangle. Yeah, he wants to try and go deeper with Sophie, but we shall see how that goes. So basically, Sophie has told him that she's scared of getting deeper, and it's very scary for her. And she essentially didn't want to do it. She really didn't want to do it. And I was just like, mate, you either want this man or you don't at the end of the day, because Sophie very well knows that Kieran is dating Megan as well. There's no way she could not know. This girl's ears has been on hyper alert every time Megan speaks about Kieran. So Kieran asked Sophie a good question, like of what she wants or where she sees herself, and basically what is on her life list. This woman says a warning first, that stuff that's on her list is very superficial. And she says there's a few designer handbags in there on that list, and the other thing is travelling. As I said it before, that Sophie is a bit of a prima donna. I don't think she's ever had to go deep with people before, because I think situations that have impacted her has literally left her going in on herself, and she finds it very, very, very hard to open up. But they don't have that much time to do that shit in when it comes to Love is Blind. At the end of the day, if she wants someone to see past this exterior, she's gonna have to open up at some point. But Kieran says, like, what does success look like for her? And she says, I feel like I'm in it. She says, I am successful in life but not in love, because she doesn't let people in easily. So she is honest about that. So Kieran still wants more. He wants to explore more with Sophie in terms of, like, you know, hoping to get to a place of being in love, because they're not there yet at all. He says, like, he feels like the door is creaking open, and that's what he is looking for with Soph. So Sophie is now questioning herself as to whether she is self-sabotaging what's happening now. And I'm like, you are. You're literally sabotaging yourself at the end of the day. I'm like, if she wants Kieran, yeah, she will have to work for it to be honest, and literally go past that barrier and allow just a little bit of deepness. Even if she doesn't want to fully let him in, just open that door that little bit more. Otherwise, she might as well say goodbye to him at the end of the day. So we see Billy in the next section of this episode, and he's basically going to ask Ashley to marry him. We all know this. So Billy and Ashley go into the pods, they have their chat, they, you know, that I love yous are banned in here, there and everywhere. Billy gets down on one knee, asks basically Ashley to marry him. He does give a good speech. I don't go into the speeches yet, but he does give a good speech. And after a lot of oh my god, Billy, yes, she says yes. Okay, so we have our first couple, Ashley and Billy. So Anu, we get to see, wants to get deeper with Patrick. She says she feels safe with Patrick. She says that he's emotionally intelligent, but I'ma say I don't feel it at all. When it comes to Patrick being emotionally intelligent, I think Patrick knows exactly what to say. He got the gift of gab and runs a good game. And with Anu and Patrick, I don't feel the connection at all between these two. I'm being totally honest when I say, as again, Patrick knows exactly what he needs to say in order to reel this girl in, to be honest with you. I don't know if I believe him or not, and time will tell once the show goes on, if he does end up asking Anu to marry him. At the end of the day, the words that come out of his mouth to me just seem very, very, very rehearsed. I don't think they really like each other. I think it's just got to a point where I think they're the only two that are speaking to each other, and I think Anu wants to have that connection with him, but I just don't see it. I really don't. So Cal and Sarova have a date, and Cal is basically of a mindset that he wants to do life with Sarova at the end of the day, and he's another one that says all the right things as well. And I mean, my thing is they all say certain bits, but is it going to compute in practice, to be honest? So Cal does speak to Sarova from the heart. Cal asked Sarova to marry him, and Sarova said yes. So our next couple is Cal and Sarova. And then we get to see Jed. Never met Jed during this process. So we get to see Jed. He was 31, he's an Essex lad, and he's half Lebanese. He dates a young woman named Barda. Barda's absolutely gorgeous, like absolutely gorgeous. So we'll have to see what happens here. Barda is Albanian, and she even spoke to Jed in Albanian, but all she said was her name is Barda and she is 31, and he loved it. He didn't understand a fucking word that this girl said, but he just loved the fact that she said it in Albanian, and I have to admit, it did sound sexy coming from her lips, to be honest with you, in a different language. It really did. So they are connecting with each other, and I think it seems as though they may have been speaking with each other for some time as the episodes have probably gone on, because the camaraderie that they had wasn't just from them meeting once. That's not the impression that I was getting. So Barda's talking about how she wants the traditional way of doing things due to her own heritage and the way that she was brought up. And I think it helps when you have common ground with someone, to be honest, and you can see that in Jed and Barda. So then we jump back to the women's quarters, and Megan again with her big mouth, loud and clear. And something is making me feel that she knows that Kieran is dating one of the girls in there. I don't know if she knows essentially who Kieran is dating, but the way in which she is conveniently talking too over loud is starting to make me think that she's starting to warn the other girls that she is forming this connection with Kieran, and basically letting it out that, you know, her and Kieran are solid, she cannot fault him, and they're on the same page. You know, the stuff women chat about when they want to make sure the other woman knows that they don't stand a chance with the dude. Let's just put it that way. So Sophie is fully locked into what Megan is saying, and for me, Sophie must be questioning exactly what is Kieran saying to Megan that is making her think that way, even though Kieran at this stage, I would say, is not leading anyone on at all, to be honest. He's literally trying to get to know the girls. Yeah. But sometimes I think women can read more into what is happening than what is actually happening. And I think Megan may be doing that right now, in essence, to warn off any other people that may be dating him. So Sophie says, Kieran makes me want to give my heart to him. And she's now going to try not to be so close-minded. And I thought to myself, well, you know that Megan wants him. You know that Megan and Kieran are possibly forming a connection now, because Megan has got a big mouth at the end of the day. So you got to fight for what you want. She wants Kieran. She got to fight for him. So Kieran and Sophie have a date. And she says to Kieran that she feels that herself letting her guard down. But she talks about how she's been very much of a daddy's girl. So then she tells him about her relationship with her dad and why she doesn't necessarily have a relationship with her mother at the end of the day. And I think this is what Kieran wanted to hear. He wanted to know a little bit more about Sophie, rather than just the surface level of her. So he is now hearing who Sophie is and what's happened to her and what shaped her into the woman that she's become today, basically. So she may be changing my mind on her, as what she talked about did definitely give me some insight into how she carries herself and why she carries herself in the way that she does. But I'm kind of now at the point of, what is it that Kieran is going to do? Will he be willing to hold on to break down the guards of Sophie if he wants to be with Sophie, or will that be too much for him? Kieran is basically saying, when he's talking, I think in the men's lounge, that he doesn't know what to think, and he's been back and forth, but he's going to have to make a decision soon, because it's not going to be fair to Megan or to Sophie the longer that he leaves it at the end of the day, because these are real people with real people feelings. They're going to get hurt. So Billy and Ashley meet. He's very tall, you know. He's quite tall. I didn't realise he was quite tall, because he looked like a proper short ass in them pods. I ain't gonna lie. And the meeting was great. They were very excited to see each other. Now it's definitely real for them. Billy goes down on one knee again and asks her to directly marry him, and she said yes. And at least he puts the ring on the right rotted finger, because, you know, some people have an issue with telling the right hand from the left hand sometimes. They're very touchy-feely with each other, telling each other that they love each other. And as again, we've always seen it start out this way, and then the shine slowly disappears. I hope it works out for them. But I've seen this before, where it goes fast and furious, yeah, and then reality freaking kicks in and everything changes. Marla and Katisha have another date, and they get a little bit deeper with each other as well. She talks about moving out of home when she was 16 years old, and she had a job as well. And this is how this would have shaped her into the person that she is now. Demola talks about his childhood and how much love he had for his grandmother, but she'd passed on. They do have good dates. They're not as superficial as Javin and Katisha are, but I think it depends on what she wants to at the end of the day. As I think Katisha is better suited to Demola, but I think she thinks she has a proper connection with Javin as well. I don't see it with him, to be honest with you. Because I think Javin is usually the type of guy that she would normally pick that doesn't necessarily always work out, and she's trying to move away from what she normally picks. So you see Megan enjoying life in the women's quarters, and Sophie is sitting quietly on her own. I think Sophie tends to cut herself off out of situations, which does not surprise me, because I think she's one of these people where she does make herself into a bit of a loner. I say that Kieran needs to hurry up and make a decision, to be honest with you. So he has a date with Megan and says, basically, as soon as he walks in the door, I've been waiting to hear your voice. I was like, oh, have we made a choice now, Kieran? Have we made that choice? I do not know. So he gets her like a Japanese ornament that he says brings good fortune to her life, and then hopefully good fortune for them both. And he also put his scent on this ornament. Man needs to put his cards on the table. Because at the end of the day, That is a statement and a half. You've gathered this girl because you both talked about how you've been to Japan, and you even talked he even talked to Sophie about how he'd been to Japan, and she says, oh, that would be somewhere I'd love to go. He got Megan a Japanese ornament. This is from his own collection. Yeah. Put his scent on there and then gave it to Megan. Now, if that ain't a bold statement, I don't know what the fuck is, because that's how I would take it at the end of the day. That's how I would take it. I just hope he doesn't start leading these two women on, because it's going to come to a motherfucking head, you know what I mean? Because as soon as Megan walks in that room to the women's quarters, she was not quiet about it at all. Sophie looked absolutely crestfallen, especially when Megan talked about the ornament that he gave her and the fact that it had his scent on there. I felt it for Sophie, because there's no way in hell she could go in that room and have a date with Kieran and there be a gift there for her as well, because that would be fucked up. That would be fucked up and underhanded on Kieran's part. So you see Sophie literally physically remove herself from the chat app because she was not happy, and she went to speak to Anu and another girl, and she is angry. Sophie is angry because she basically said that is a bold statement from Kieran, and she fully went off. She fully went off because she says, fuck that. It ain't me. It ain't me and another girl. It's me and me alone. Or you're going with somebody else at the end of the day. She now, defensive Sophie, has stepped into the melee. So this is who Kieran's going to have to deal with now, because he's royally pissed her off. The fury is coming for Kieran right about now. As they say, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And my God, has Kieran scorned Sophie right about now. I don't know how he's going to be able to pull this one around, because this is where the episode ended. But I'll be back soon with the new one, because I think it's going to be an absolute showdown between Kieran and Sophie. And also we know in the next episode that Cal and Sarova are going to have to meet officially. But yeah, that was fucked up on Kieran's part. But that is where I'm going to leave it, my people, my renegades, my lovelies. And I'll be back, as I said, with another one very soon. As I always say, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that notification button so we know I'm doing videos. Please comment, like, share, and do the things that you do, because I continue to be on the road to 1K. Peace out.